So any questions on chart of accounts, what we discussed in the last session? Okay, we discussed about chart of accounts. It's nothing but capturing the details of the each and every transaction for reporting purpose. It could be internal reporter or external reporting. So to meet the business requirements and in terms of reporting, to meet the reporting requirements, we have to design the chart of accounts. When you design the chart of accounts, these are the points we have to notice. Within the general ledger application, we have accounting key flex field. Within the accounting key flex field, we can create the chart of accounts. Within the chart of accounts, we create segments. For each segment, we create value sets. With the help of value sets, we create segment values. So this is what we discussed. Once you have a data in the system, you can start creating the code combinations. As a part of chart of accounts, we can create minimum 2 segments. It's a mandatory. You should create minimum 2 segments. Mostly those minimum 2 segments are company and account. And max you can create up to 30 segments. But real implementations, you can see this as a numbers for segments. In most of the implementation, 7 or 8. And in few, rarely you may see 9, 10 also. If somebody using more than 10, it doesn't make any sense. That means they're not following the best practices. Okay. So, and another few points we discussed, we are going to create the chart of accounts with these segments in the instance. So up to this, we discussed in the last session. If any questions from anyone, please. Hope you can hear me. Anyone confirm, please? I'm just.
Yes, Lakshman.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. Fine. That means you don't have any questions. Okay, great. Let's focus on chart of accounts creation. Okay, chart of accounts. So to create the chart of accounts, we have to perform multiple tasks. Okay, set of tasks will help us to create the chart of accounts. What tasks we need to perform and what is the sequence need to be followed? Let's discuss first. So first we have to create value sets for all these segments. If you are going to create the chart of accounts with these segments, for each segment we have to create value set. So create value sets. After creating value sets for all the segments, the next step would be creating our chart of account structure, or you can call it chart of account structure name. Take as create chart of accounts structure, or say structure name. We have to create the chart of account structure name. If you create name, what is the use? We cannot do anything with the name. Inside of the structure, we have to create the segments. The same point we discussed. We have to create the segments. So create segments. And for each segment, we need to assign value sets. Here is the point which we discussed. We create segments. How many segments we want to create? Accordingly, we can create. For each segment, we have to assign relevant value set. For company segment, company value set. For department segment, department. That's how all the value sets you have to assign to respective segments. The same point you have to make a note. So assign value sets to segments. Assign value sets to segments. After assigning the value sets to segments, we have to assign labels to segments. What does that mean by labels? We will discuss. We have to wait for some time. For now, you can take the task. For each segment, or wherever it is applicable for those segments, we have to assign the labels. The labels we call as segment labels. Just make a note. Later I'll compare with EBS also. If somebody is from EBS background, we can correlate. Okay, we'll compare and we'll understand. For now, let's not take those points. Once we create the chart of accounts, we'll have a high level walkthrough by comparing with EBS. Okay, we are not going to just add some points in between. First, we'll see what is a chart of account, how to create. Once we see in the system, so that you can correlate better. That is the reason. After completing the chart of accounts creation, we'll compare with EBS. So then it doesn't take much time. It will be easy for you to understand if you are from EBS background. So we'll assign the value sets to segments. After assigning the value sets to segments, we have to assign segment labels to segments. Take as assign segment labels to segments. Okay. We have to assign segment labels to segments. After completing this task, we have to create chart of account structure instance. Create chart of account structure instance. After creating the chart of account structure instance, we need to deploy the accounting flex field. Take all the points. We'll discuss and we'll do. Once we complete in the system, you will get full understanding about this content. So now just I'm trying to introduce to you what needs to be done. What does that mean? We will discuss in the next step. That partially we'll discuss now, and once we start working on the system, rest you can understand. By the time we complete the chart of account creation, you'll have a better understanding about what we are listing out here. Don't try to fetch now itself. It is not possible. Just take these names, take the task names, the sequence, even if you don't understand. Slowly, by the time of chart of accounts creation completion, you will be good with this concept of chart of accounts creation in the system. You will have a understanding of each and every task what we are discussing here. Say deploy accounting key flex field, or you can say accounting key flex field, you can say accounting flex field also, you can say any name you can use. Okay, deploy accounting, I will say like key, both are same. Deploy accounting key flex field. Okay, deploy accounting key flex field. After deployment, you have to create segment values. For each segment, we have to create the values by using the respective value sets. If you take example of company, so we create company value set, we'll assign that to company segment. It's okay. But within the company value set, we don't have any data that need to be created. Okay, when you create the value set, is empty value set. We have to create the values within the value set that we have to do after completing these all activities. The moment you create value set, you should not create values. There is a strong reason. We will discuss, we will see that. So after completing all these setups, you have to create companies list in the company value sets, department list, department values in the department value set, within the account value set, all the accounts you have to create. Till the time, you should not create. After deploying the accounting key flex field, we have to do it. What does it mean by deploying accounting key flex field? We'll see that. Just we are discussing the steps. So after deploying accounting key flex field, we have to create values in the value sets. So create segment values in respective value sets. So when you create the values in the value sets, we need to provide some data that we call as value attributes. Say set value attributes. Okay, so set value attributes to segment values. Set value attributes to segment values. So along with this, what we are going to do, we are going to assign segment labels to segments. Okay. I'll give the full clarity about these who are from EBS background. We have to wait for some time. Okay. Now let's see as it is. So if you can complete these tasks, you can say your chart of account is ready. If your chart of account is ready, you can create the transactions with the detailed information, which will help you to produce your reports. The reporting requirement could be internal or external reporting requirements that can be satisfied by this chart of accounts. Okay. So don't try to look into these terms. We will understand what is segment label, what is the value attributes, what is a deploy. Apart from this, if you have any high level questions to understand this, let me know. We'll discuss and we'll proceed. Any questions on this, please? Any questions from anyone? Great, no questions. Now, so when we talk about setups, any setup, I'm not talking about specific setup. When we talk about any setups, we can do the setups by using three different options. One is global search. Global search page. The second one is your project, your implementation project. The third one is FSM. So these are the three options are available. From FSM and project, you can complete 100% setups. But from here, you may complete just 80% setups. Okay. From global search page, you cannot complete all the setups, but from project as well as FSM, from these two pages, okay, you will be able to complete 100% setups, whatever you targeted. From global search, you can search for anything. If you take example as project, in projects, you may select implementation project I'm talking about. Okay, implementation project I'm talking about. There is separate, we'll just come to know, just we already created implementation project, right? So by using FSM, we created implementation project. I'm talking about this. In the implementation project, if you select financials, only you can do finance setups. But from the global search page, you can access to any setups. You don't need to select anything. Directly you can search and you can access. Still, you can have the reach of 80% setups to be able to complete. You can find all the setups, but you cannot complete. There are some reasons. Once we start working on the various setups, various classification of setups, that would be more clear for us. Before we go and see that, just make a note of this point. From the global search page, you cannot complete all the setups. Maybe 80% of setups will be able to complete, but project and FSM can enable us to complete 100% setups. What are the setups you are targeting? It will allow, but global search, it will allow all the setups, but you cannot complete. You can have access point of view 100%, no doubt, but completion point of view 80. And project and FSM, access point of view limited. Whatever you choose, only those you can access. But completion point of view, 100% you can complete whatever the task you are accessing. So this is another point you have to understand. So in the last few classes, by using our implementation project, we created our calendar, our accounting calendar. We navigated to currency page from the project only. So if not from project, how we can access the setups from the global search page as well as FSM, we will see. Okay, we'll see from the global search from here and here also. Whatever you cannot complete from the global search, that you can complete from your project or FSM. Why we should create implementation project? If you want to copy the setups from one instance to another instance, the implementation project will have a value addition. It can help us to copy the setups. More than that, it will make our job very easy. If you are doing the setups from the project, so every time you don't need to select something which need to be selected as a part of setups. Automatically system can pick, if you are doing the setups from project, what exactly system will pick, where it will reduce our burden. That's all we will understand when we are start doing the setups. When we just reach that setups where it makes sense to understand how it will reduce the burden of our additional efforts, those we will understand. But for now, you take this point. Setups can be performed within the instance from these three different spaces: global search, project, FSM. Project level, already we have seen how to search, how to click on the task, how to navigate and all. Now we'll try to do these setups from the FSM page or global search. It will allow these setups. There is no limitation. So it will allow. Otherwise, if you don't want to do from here, directly go to project and do it. Okay, go to project and you can do. There is no issue with that. Okay, let's try to do these setups from the implementation project or global search or FSM. Anything is fine for us. Okay, so go to instance to do these setups one by one. Let's try with a global search. Few setups we'll do from FSM. If required, we go to project and we'll try to do it. Okay, so any area you can leverage, any area you can use, you will be able to do it. There are certain other setups which we cannot do from the global search. Those we have to do either from the project or FSM. Okay, no scope from the global search that you cannot perform. No option. We will understand all those. What are those and why? Fine. Now go to our instance. Just this is the one. So you can go to task list. Click on search. If you click on search, it will take us to global search, or else you can go to implementation project. If not, from here itself, you can do the setup. So you can go to financials. So in which applications we are going to create the chart of accounts? Anyone?
General ledger.
General ledger. That's what we discussed. Within the general ledger, we have accounting key flex field as a one of the feature. Within that, we can create the chart of accounts. Yes. Now, you can select general ledger here. And you can do the setups. Here you can perform the setups. This is one option. Otherwise, you can go to project. Within the project, you can search and you can do it. Otherwise, you can go with a search. This page we call as global search. Here there is no limitations. Anything and everything you can search and find. It may be related to finance, it may be related to HCM, it may be related to PPM, it may be related to your CRM or something else. Everything you can access. If you are in the project, if you select financials offering, you can perform the setups which are related to finance only within the project. In your project, only financials selected. You can do only finance setups. So if you want to do some HCM related setups, you cannot do. If Oracle is allowing some dependency setups as shared setups, that is okay. When you are working on the financials, there could be some dependency setups from SCM, supply chain management, maybe from HCM and procurement. That sort of setups Oracle will allow. But if you want to do core setups for those applications, not allowed. You should have access to relevant offering and options. Otherwise, no. But this page will allow to perform any setups. But always remember, when it comes to setup completion, only 80% setups you can complete, but all you can access. So, but when we talk about chart of accounts, yes, chart of account you can complete from this page also. Okay, let's try to complete from this page. Later, even we can access from the project and FSM also for better understanding. Okay, so what we want to do, we want to create as a first step value sets creation. So here Close this. Here you can search for value sets. The value sets we are going to create as a part of chart of accounts. Within the chart of accounts, we are going to create the value sets. Okay, within the chart of accounts, we are going to create the value sets. Now, search for the task called as chart of accounts value sets. Within the chart of account, we are going to create the value sets. To use the value sets within the chart of accounts, we are creating this. So the task name would be chart of accounts value sets. The full task name would be manage chart of accounts value sets. But you can search with these terms, it will fetch. Click on search. Okay, click on search. So this is our chart of accounts value sets task. So click on that same task. Okay, it is opening here. So by default, you have manage chart of account value sets. Okay, this is the task name which we navigated. Under that, you can say search section, search. Say already you created chart of account value sets, or simply you say value sets. Already you created value sets, you want to find out. Here you can give the criteria and you can find out. By default, it is showing search option. If you want to create the new value sets, click on create. This is how you can create from this page. If not from here, if you want to do from FSM, how to do this? Let's try to understand from where how we can navigate. That's very important for us. So you want to do the setups from this page. Go to financials offering. Select general ledger. And here by default, it is showing the required tasks. The primary setups it is showing for GL. Here you have to select all tasks. And here you can search for value sets. Chart of accounts, value sets. Here it is showing. The same search criteria, there are two tasks. One is manage chart of account value sets. Other one is manage chart of account value set values. You can choose the first one. You want to create value sets, not value set values. The value set values you can create after completing all these setups here. This is a task where we create the values in the value sets. Now we want to create just value sets. Okay, we want to create just value sets. This is a task we have to use. You can click on manage chart of account value sets. The same task you can see here. Click on the same page we are navigating. Done. And here you can see the sequence also. Okay, here you can see the sequence. First value set values, then structure, instance, and all. Well, I'll just take you through in the project also. And again, now we will try from the project. Go to manage implementation projects. Okay, so you can choose any one of the project. I'll just choose some project. You can select your project. No worries, just randomly I'm selecting one project for our understanding. So here what we want to do from the project is we want to create value set. Chart of accounts value sets. Here is the task. Manage chart of accounts value sets. So these are the setups we have to complete. If we notice here, these setup system is displaying in the sequence. What is the first task and the second task, third task? This all will go into review with the list of setups, whatever we discussed so far. So as per our series of tasks, so this is a series of our tasks which we are going to perform. This we will review with the system tasks. First, we have to create the value sets. To create value sets, what we have in the system. This is a task we have to use. By using manage chart of account value sets, you can create the value sets. Good. Next step, create chart of accounts structure name, or simply you can say chart of accounts. You can call as name, or else simply you can call as chart of accounts. Create chart of account structure. If you want to create the chart of account structure in the system, what is the task available? This is the task. Manage chart of account structures. And what else we have to do after creating the chart of account structure? Within the chart of account structure, we have to create the segments, and we need to assign value sets to respective segments, and we need to assign segment labels to segments. These activities we have to do within the chart of account structure only. That means to perform all these activities, how many tasks? 4 tasks. Creating chart of account structure, creating segments, assigning the value sets to segments, assigning segment labels to segments. These 4 tasks you can complete by using this single task within the system. Okay, you take this as a 4 actions. Otherwise, to perform these 4 actions, system side, what we have? Only 1 task. Inside of this task, we can create the chart of account structure, and you can create the segments. To segments, you can assign the segment value sets. For each segment, you can assign the respective value, respective segment labels. This is what, okay, these 4 activities can be performed in the system by using the single task. After completing these 4, we need to create chart of account structure instance. Okay, what is the meaning of instance? We'll discuss once again, but just to highlight, what is the meaning of instance? Let's talk about the term, English term meaning. What does it mean by instance means? Forget about this software or applications. Very generic meaning. What does it mean by instance?
Replica, right? You said.
Replica, that's it. That answer is enough for us. So replica. What replica it is? Chart of accounts structure replica. So by doing all these setups, we are going to create our chart of accounts. Within our system, what happens is, what are the chart of accounts you create that you cannot use directly? There are some technical reasons. We will discuss. I'll talk about those when we reach that point. So because of some technical reasons within the instance, you cannot use your chart of accounts directly to capture the description of the transaction. So that is the reason Oracle came up with the concept called as chart of account structure instance. Instance is nothing but replica of chart of account structure. What are the chart of accounts we are going to create that need to be copied? You have to copy. You have to create replica of your chart of account structure. Then you can use it. As it is, what you are creating, you cannot use it. You have to copy so that we can use it. That's it. So that is the meaning of instance. The technical reasons and all we'll discuss when you create the instance. The other point is, okay, to perform this, we have a separate task. This is the task. In fact, this creating the chart of account structure instance, you can do from this task also. That is possible. When we start doing the setups, we will understand that. But anyway, they given the separate task, you also please count it as it is. So after creating the chart of account structure, we have to create chart of account structure instance. Okay, you have to create the chart of account structure instance. So this is the point. So chart of account structure instance. The other point is, we have to deploy the accounting key flex field. What does it mean by deploying the accounting key flex field? You tell me where we are going to create the chart of account structure as per our discussions, exactly where?
In general ledger.
Okay, anything else?
Or in project.
Okay. Any other answers?
In accounting flex field.
Yes, in accounting key flex field. So that's what we discussed. Yes, general ledger we are creating, that is a very high level. Within the general ledger, we have accounting key flex field. In accounting key flex field, we are going to create our chart of accounts. So when you create our chart of accounts within the accounting key flex field, that accounting key flex field need to be validated. We have to submit accounting key flex field for validation. When you submit accounting key flex field for validation, system will verify how many chart of accounts are available in that accounting key flex field. What is the health of those chart of account structures? It will validate. If anything wrong with any chart of accounts, it will stop the validation. You have to go and fix that issues. Then only all the chart of accounts will be validated. It may be one chart of accounts or multiple. We'll discuss those points also, how many we need to create. So, but the validation takes place at accounting key flex field level. If you create one chart of accounts, you cannot select your chart of account for validation. Okay. It is possible in EBS, or from EBS background, they know very well. They can validate in EBS, but in the Fusion, it is not possible. In Fusion, what we have to do is the validation takes place at accounting key flex field level, not at chart of account structure level. So that is the reason the entire accounting key flex field, in accounting key flex field, we are creating the chart of accounts. Chart of accounts are going to be inside of accounting key flex field. When those are in, we can submit accounting key flex field for validation. When you submit accounting key flex field for validation, it means you are submitting all our chart of accounts for validation. So that is the meaning of deploy. Okay, deploy or say deployment. We'll do the deployment, or you say validate. The other term you can use, compile. All are same. You call as a validate, you call as a compile, you call as a deploy or a deployment, all are same. What we are trying to achieve within the accounting key flex field, what are the chart of accounts are available, we are trying to verify those. What is the health condition of those chart of accounts, properly created or not, as per standard practice, best practices, or anything else you can add. So those are created or not. What are the validations are available in the system, we will discuss. When you submit for deployment, I'll explain. So when you deploy the accounting key flex field, exactly what system is going to verify against so-and-so chart of accounts, those points we'll discuss very, very detailed. Once we start working on the system, when you submit this accounting key flex field for deployment, we will discuss those. Okay. For now, just we are trying to understand very high level, not detail. Slowly we'll understand very, very detailed level. Okay. So that is the point of deploy accounting key flex field. That deployment also you can do from this task. Any task you can use. You can use this task or you can use this task. With this task itself, from this task itself, you can do all these also. Okay, not the first one, except first one. These are all activities you can do from single task, that is this. Or else these are all activities you can do from single task, that is this. The reason is this both tasks will take us to same page. Same page. These two tasks will point to the same page. Just for sake of activity, okay, to differentiate, they given the separate task as instance. Reality not required, they given. But you have to understand both are same. Both will take us to same page. Let them keep any name, doesn't matter. Destination is same. So this is what we have to understand. Once you deploy, okay, we can judge our chart of account is fine. If something wrong, it will throw error message. In the deployment process, it will do required validation. What sort of validations it will do, we'll see that. Once validations are done, you can get to know how to go about it. If any issues, you can fix it. You can fix, again, you submit for a deployment. The next step would be create segment values in value sets. Yes, as we discussed here, okay, this is an example I'm taking. So this is how each value set you can create the values. That's it, a simple task. When you are creating the values in the value sets, okay, we have to set some characteristics, some properties, certain behavior for those segment values that we call as value attributes. Okay, when you create the values in the value sets, what we have to do, we have to set certain behavior we have to set certain behavior in the system for these values what we enter. It means, say, these are the companies, these are the companies. How this company one should behave in the system, what is possible, what is not possible with this company, what about 2, what about 3, and what about these departments, how this department should behave. Can I use this department to create the transaction? Can I create the budget with the department? The same way it is applicable for companies also. Can I record the transaction with these companies, or these companies are just companies which represents their parent company, which is required for reporting purpose, not for transaction creation purpose. In the same way, accounts. When you talk about accounts, so the broad classification for accounts is 5 types. Accounts we can classify into 5 types. You don't worry if you don't know about this type of accounts. You'll come to know everything. We are here to learn. Okay. So there is no expectation you know something what I'm explaining before you attend these classes. No expectation I have. Okay. So we have a 5 type of accounts. Okay, just make a note and read and remember. That's it. That is a learning here. Okay. I am not expecting you know by this time. 5 type of accounts. Let me write 5 type of accounts. So those you can take as expense, revenue, assets, liabilities, ownership or owner's equity you can call. Okay, ownership or owner's equity. Owner's equity. These type 5 we call as account types. If somebody is not aware of this, don't worry, you will just come to know. We have a sessions to understand. We'll throughout the session we'll be dealing with this. That's how we'll understand. But if you have a time from your end, what you can do is after today's session, you may spend 30 minutes time. That is more than enough. You search in the Google 5 type of accounts. Read some article. Maybe you spend 30 minutes, not more than that. Okay, you don't need to spend 1 hour, 2 hours. Okay, that much understanding you don't require, not at all required. You spend 30 minutes. If you don't have time, spend 10 minutes. If you don't have 10 minutes, no worries. Leave it. We'll see in our classes. Okay, search for 5 type of accounts. Then just you verify what does it mean by expense type of account, what does it mean by revenue type, asset, liability, owner's equity. Read it. If you understand, okay. If you don't understand, again leave it. Don't worry. Don't worry if you don't understand. You will come to know in our classes. Okay, just beforehand, if you want to understand, you try in this way. If you are not able to understand, if you don't have time, no worries. Just make a note of this 5 type of accounts in your note and read and remember. Tomorrow, if I'm going to ask what are the different type of accounts we have, you should be able to answer. Okay, that is the expectation, not more than that. Later, we will understand what does it mean by liability, what is asset, what is the revenue, expense, owner's equity, and many other things. Okay, we are going to learn all this. We will understand all this. So 5 type of accounts we have. When you create all these accounts, okay, when you create all these accounts in the account value set, you have to specify which account is which type. I'm going to create Citibank account. It is nothing but cash account. Citibank bank account means we use that account to maintain the cash. Cash is which type of account? Asset. If you are not aware, no worries. So everything here, admin expense. Clearly it is mentioned expense. That means admin expense, when you create in the account value set, for admin expense, you have to select account type as expense. Airfare expense, you have to select account type as expense. Taxi expense, you have to select account type as expense. Salary is always expense for the companies. They are spending for employee services. So that is also expense. Okay. purchasing laptop, it depends. If you are purchasing laptop to you keep in our organization, to use in our organization, that is asset. If you are purchasing a laptop to sell, that you are spending. Later, by selling, you can generate the revenue. Okay. So this is how, like, these all accounts, bank accounts, all bank accounts are assets for us. So this is all we have to set. We will set, we will understand. Okay. Even Oracle also going to help us by giving good amount of information for our better understanding. So if you are not aware, if you are just listening these data for first time, okay, don't worry, just make a note, read and remember. So this all we have to set. When we are creating all these segment values in the system, you have to specify. So with this company, can we have a budget or not? With these companies, can we create the transactions or not? Same is applicable for this, for these also. With these accounts, do we need to set any budget? What is a budget? That is a separate concept. We'll see when we deal with the budget. If you want to understand very high level, I may talk about budget. So you may set the budget for admin expense. You may set in March month, budget for admin expense is $10,000. Means you are not allowed to spend more than 10,000 under title called as admin expenses. You have to limit your admin expense within the $10,000 that we call as budget. Budget means in a specific period, that is March month, for example. Which account? Admin expense account. What is the limit? 10,000. Okay, with the combination of period, account and amount, whatever you define, that we call as budget. You set some restriction. So not allowed to spend more than 10,000 in the March month under account title called as admin expense. That's it. That is a budget. So those all you can set up in the system, which is possible and which is not possible for all these values by using the concept called as value attributes. With the value attributes, we are going to set the properties for the segment values. Which company budget is allowed, for which company no budget. With which company we can record the business transaction, which company is not a kind of legal company, which is not a transactional company. This all we can set up by using the value attributes. Okay. Just make a note, even if you don't understand the points what we are discussing, please make a note, read and remember. When you do that, by the time if you remember this content, really it works like anything. Okay. I'm not expecting you will understand here. I don't have such kind of expectations. My expectation is I want to introduce the steps. You will aware the sequence of steps. You will aware the terminology what we are using, like segment labels, value attributes, deployment, okay, instance, chart of account structure, instance. That is my expectation. Just you will be familiar with the terminology by the time really we go and do in the system. Another point, let me explain. Segment labels. We need to assign segment labels to segment. Which labels we have to assign to which segments? Let's talk about it. You take this example only. So which segment, which label need to be assigned? Let's talk about it. Take the note and do read and remember. Okay, don't try to find the colors within that. So we need some time to understand very detailed level. Till the time, just what needs to be done, you just make a note and read and remember. So when you talk about labels, what we are discussing here, assign segment labels to segments. We have to assign segment labels to segments. Which label we need to assign to which segment we'll discuss first. Later, after some time, we will discuss why that label need to be assigned to that segment only. What is the purpose of that label? We will understand very soon, but not now. I can explain. It will go over the heads from your end. So because there is no proof. Okay. So we cannot connect to that point now itself because we are not connected properly to the system. Once you complete this status, once you start creating the transactions, that is a point where you can understand about these. For that purpose, they given these, and here only we have to create, these will impact there. Right. So that is the reason. So now we cannot discuss to understand, but take the points. So whenever reach that point, we will discuss. So for company segment, which label we have to assign? For company segment, we have to assign the label called as primary balancing segment label. It doesn't make any sense for you now, but make a note. For company segment, primary balancing segment label need to be assigned. What about department? For a department segment, we need to assign cost center segment label. For account segment, what label we have to assign? Natural account segment label. Anyone please tell me why we need to assign natural account segment label to account? Why we need to assign?
So that we can identify the segment has 5 types of accounts.
Yeah, that's true. But now here the point is we don't know. That need to be discussed. What you are talking, somewhere you've gone through, right? We never discussed in our class. So you please always answer as you are only in this class. I don't expect your prior experience or if you are playing the videos. Okay. Now our discussions only based on what we are discussing in our classes. That's it. So we don't know. Why we need to assign natural account segment labels, we don't know. Why we need to assign primary balance and segment label to company, we don't know. We not yet discussed, we will discuss. And why we have to assign something to this intercompany. What is that something? That is intercompany segment label. That's all. For rest, you are not going to assign anything. Why you are not assigning? Why you are assigning all this to this? We will discuss all this. We need some time. Okay, now we cannot understand. Even we can take initiative of understanding. Doesn't work. Okay, so these are segment labels. Please make a note. So you be ready to answer. You should be able to answer if I ask you the question. Okay, what need to be assigned to what label need to be assigned to company? You should be able to answer primary balance and segment label we have to assign. Which label need to be assigned to account segment? Natural account segment label. What label we have to assign to department? Cost center segment label. What label for intercompany segment? Intercompany segment label. This is what you should remember. This is all about you have to remember, recall, and respond. This is all about our course. Understanding is one thing. The very important. Understanding maybe 25% I could see. Rest of 70% you have to exercise, remembering, recalling, and presenting in the better format. This all I'll explain. I'll take separate session how you have to prepare this course. Please take those points what we are discussing. Okay. So these are the 4 segment labels we need to assign to these 4 segments. So we'll understand very soon why we have to assign all this. What will happen if you don't assign? If you assign, what will happen? This is all we have to understand. So this is all about understanding the chart of accounts. Okay, this is how you can create the chart of accounts. So now we'll go and create the value sets first. Okay, we'll go and create the value sets first. Or else before we just jump into the system to create value sets, any questions from anyone, please?
Lakshman, is this a recommended thing to have first 4 segments like this in all the companies, or there is no any recommendation?
Yeah, that point will come later, but nothing wrong. Even if we discuss, we can understand that. Let me highlight that. Okay. I thought of discussing later, but since we have a question, but we can understand by discussing now. So when you talk about these labels within the chart of accounts, which labels are mandatory? Only the 2 labels. Okay. So in every chart of accounts, you should use primary balance and segment label and natural account segment label. Ideally, we assign primary balance and segment label to company and natural account segment label to account. Rest of the two labels or any other labels optional, and conditionally those may become mandatory. When and how we will discuss. Okay. For now, you can take what are mandatory. This primary balance and segment label is mandatory.
Okay.
Yeah. And natural account segment label is mandatory. Rest of two what we have, you may use, may not use. If you are using, there will be some reason. The reasons we'll understand. In fact, why these two are mandatory, we are not discussing now. We'll discuss. We'll wait for some time and we'll discuss. But you make a note. So when you create the chart of accounts, two labels are mandatory. Those are primary balance and segment label and natural account segment label. If you create your chart of accounts with these two segment labels, you cannot use the chart of accounts. Okay, you cannot use the chart of accounts. That's it. Any other questions here, please? So no questions. Fine. Let me just list out a few other things related to value attributes also. Since we are talking about segment labels, let's talk about value attributes. So when you talk about value attributes, it's very simple to understand. So with the help of value attributes, what we have to do is, so budgeting. And you can say posting, account type. These we have to set very primarily. When we create, you will get introduced to the rest of thing also. Very primarily what we have to understand, I am trying to introduce here itself, so that when we go and do value attribute related setup, you will be familiar. It won't become very first time. You will listen and you will see. You know already what is the value attributes, what are the key attributes you are going to set for each and every segment values, irrespective of segment. For a company you have to set, for a department you have to set, for account you have to set. Okay, so primarily this is what you have to set. Say you have a company, so and so company. For company you want to create the budget or not, you have to set yes or no. Posting in the sense, if you are going to create the transaction with that company or department, you will be posting the transaction. Posting is nothing but processing the transaction within the system. It means you are going to update the balances in the system. Take example, you are going to fill online application. You entered everything. You connected to that website, you signed up, and you created one, you entered some data for application and you saved it. If you save that application, will it work, or you have to do some other action? Do you need to submit some other action? You have to perform some other action. How it works? If you fill the data and if you save in your account, is it fine, or you have to take some other actions? What do you say for this?
Yes, we have to submit the application.
Submit. If you don't submit, what will happen?
It saves.
Yeah, it
It
saves
gives
in
the
your
entry.
account. That means you are not conforming, right?
Yes.
Once you submit, it is your confirmation from your end to that the destination. Might be submitting some online application related to education or some other reason, issue, or any kind of services, etc. When you submit, it will go and hit that targeted party, and it is confirmation from your end. Accordingly, things can be updated and they can respond. If you are just creating one account, there you are filling some application, if you are saving, no use. Of course, nowadays, so people are even connecting if you go and touch, even if you don't fill the application. So, but reality, if you submit, it will, that is a final action. In the system also, if you create the transaction, it is just draft down. If you post, that will update. what is your intention of creating the transaction. So that also you can set. If so-and-so company, whether we can create the transactions and process or not, you can set. This is applicable for all the segment values. You take company and department, account, intercompany, project, future and future too. For any segment related values, you have to set budgeting is required or not. Posting is required or not. Posting is nothing but processing the transaction. When you process, when you are able to create, it means you can create and you can process the transactions. If you set by default, for any segment, any values you create with the help of value set for everything and anything, budgeting and posting is yes, we use. So every value, company, department, account, everything is allowed for budgeting until unless you don't want to set. Posting is applicable for all the values. But account type is applicable. Which segment? You tell me. For which segment account type may be applicable?
Natural account segment level.
Account type is applicable for which segment? Account segment. So don't mind, I'm clearly mentioning, don't use your previous expertise or learnings. Okay, account here, not natural account. We never discuss natural account. That is label name. So account segment. When we are going to create the accounts under account segment within the value set, we have to set which type account is it. Okay, the account is expense account, revenue account, asset account, liability or ownership, that we have to set. For company department, there is no account type. Only account type is applicable only for account segment related values. So for this we have to set. So these are the primary value attributes. You create any value for company department, you have to set whether you want to do budgeting and you want to process the transaction. You have to set yes or no. By default, system takes yes. If you don't want intentionally, you can go and set no. So the system won't allow you to do the budgeting and processing the transaction for a specific company, department, account, and rest of segments also. And account type is applicable only for account segment related values. For account segment means, for account segment, we will have one value set. Within that value set, we'll enter the values. So there we can set up account type, which type of account is that. So this is all about value attributes, which we have to understand. Budgeting posting is applicable for all the segments, but along with budgeting posting, account type also applicable for account segment only. Any questions here, please? Just I am trying to introduce, nothing. I am not trying to make you to understand. I am trying to introduce this terminology. Okay, here don't try to understand anything. Just try to be familiar with these terms. So when we see in the system what we do, it would be easy for you to understand. So once we get into the system, I'll ask you the question. Okay, what label need to be assigned to company? You will answer, but you don't know why we are assigned. That we will discuss later. At least you can engage. I'll ask you the question. Okay, now we are creating account segment. You tell me what label need to be assigned. Your answer would be natural account segment label. Why? We don't know. We'll come to know later. When you create the value attribute segment values, I'll ask the question, what value attributes we have to set? Your answer would be, we have to set budgeting posting for all the segment related values. In case of account, along with the budgeting and posting, we have to set account type also. What are the account types? That could be my question. Your answer would be, we have 5 types of accounts: expense, revenue, asset, liability, ownership. Enough. You are on the track. That's enough. When I am doing in the system, if you are looking at with a big question, doesn't make any sense. Okay, at least you should see something which you are aware. That is the reason I am introducing. So even you can build your confidence when we walk through those pages, when you do something, since you are ready with some info in advance, that will help you in many ways. That is the reason I am trying to introduce these things, and this the better way of learning also. So any questions on these points, please? Okay, we discussed about chart of accounts. These are the setups we have to perform in the system. And when you are performing in the system, there is a one point called as assign segment labels to segments to have a better information, more information about it. I mentioned these points. So these are the 4 labels. Just remember, these 4 labels need to be assigned to these 4 segments. Really, do we need to assign these 4 segments? No. These 2 are mandatory. In every chart of accounts, without primary balance and segment label and natural account segment label, you cannot complete your primary ledger, a chart of accounts definition. So that is the reason these are mandatory. Rest optional. When those are required, we'll understand. Everything will understand when those are required, why those are required, where those are required, what we can achieve by assigning. All these points we'll discuss. So along with that, we discussed another point as per chart of account structure setup. The another point is we have to set value attributes to respect to segment values. When you talk about value attributes, these are primary. Okay, budgeting, posting, account type. As per system, you see allow budgeting, allow posting. Okay, but I written here as a budgeting posting. That kind of word is enough for us to connect. So budgeting, posting, account type, these we treat as value attributes. These will set certain behavior for the segment values. If I set for so-and-so company budgeting, no. If you try to create the budget, it doesn't work. You already set a control. You passed one rule. You are enforcing the rule in the system with a value attribute saying that for so-and-so company, we never do budget. You will go to a company called as XYZ Inc. Consulting Services. You will set budgeting, no. It won't be available to create the budget because that's how you run the company. You never have a budget for this. So that is the reason you set to no. If somebody is trying to create the budget for company 1, it doesn't work. It doesn't allow. Already you set a control. So that's how everything works. The value attributes will set some properties, how this value should behave, how this value should not behave, where it should be available, where it should not be available. That sort of controls you can set with the value attributes. Okay, it's all about setting some controls on segment values. Value attributes, nothing but setting some controls on segment values within the value set. What about segment label? Same statement. Here, value attributes to set some controls on segment values. What do you think? Segment labels. Segment labels to set the control on these segments. It will set some properties. Hey, this is how this company segment should behave. This is how this account segment should behave. We are qualifying those segments with these labels. The same way we are qualifying the segment values with these attributes. The 2 cases we are qualifying, we are giving some qualifications to do something or not to do something. You may set restrictions. You may give the permissions to do something that we are trying to achieve with these labels and attributes. With these labels and attributes, that's what we are trying to understand. Apart from this, as a part of the setups, we discussed another point, instance. Okay, we discussed another point, instance. Chart of account structure, instance. So instance is nothing but what we discussed. Okay, let me check here. This is nothing but the copy of chart of accounts. COA, chart of accounts means COA. The copy of chart of accounts structure. The reason of this chart of account structure instance creation is you cannot use your chart of account structure what you create. Okay. The chart of accounts structure you cannot use as it is. As it is you cannot use. That you have to convert into instance and you can use it. Okay. So you have to convert. You have to convert, then you can use it. So there are some technical reasons. There are some system side technical reasons why this need to be created. We will discuss when we are doing this activity in the system. I'll explain. Okay. So we create the chart of account structure, but the chart of account structure we cannot use. Okay. We cannot use that. We need to convert. Okay, we earn money, but we cannot eat it. Should be some conversion with that money that we can use it. The same way here, chart of account structure, what we are creating, we cannot use it. That need to be translated, that need to be converted into instance, then you can use it. So that's all about this chart of account structure related story. Okay, this story you have to understand and you should remember. You should be able to tell this story to others. Then you are good with this chart of accounts. Take it as a story. This is one of the story infusion applications, chart of accounts. The story name is chart of accounts. In story, you can identify a few characters. Okay, segments, labels, value attributes, chart of account structure, chart of account structure instance. So this is how you have to understand. It's very, very, very important in the entire course. This is a difficult people find. I'm trying to make it. This is a very, very easy for everyone. Okay. Other than chart of accounts, there is no difficult task for you to understand, for me to explain. Okay, everything is pretty easy, simple. Just click, 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 done. Click, click, done. But chart of account is the key thing. And I can say simply, I can tell you the fact, any implementation, it would fail or success, it can complete successfully. That depends on chart of accounts only. If you create very bad chart of accounts, the entire implementation will fail. Your implementation success or failure always depends on the chart of accounts what we are creating. That's it. Chart of account is like heart for application. If our heart is not proper, everything will function wrong, and it may not start functioning also. In our fusion applications, if chart of account is not proper, things will start functioning very badly. I don't say here it will get stopped. In case of human beings or any other living things, if heart is not fine, everything may go wrong. But in system, everything may not go wrong, but things will become mess. It will create the mess. That is not the purpose of system we are trying to use. That is the reason you have to take care of the heart of application, that is your chart of accounts. You have to take care of, you have to understand thoroughly. You have to be very, very clear when we are discussing with the client. Okay, we have to help them. What is the chart of account? How this will help? What are the labels? What are the attributes? How to create this and that? We should aware. You don't need to teach to your client how to create chart of accounts. If you teach the chart of accounts to your client, you don't need to be sit in that place. They can start doing. We never teach to the client all this. What we will teach, how to use the system. This is all comes under implementation. As a consultant, you should aware how to create the chart of accounts, what labels, what attributes, what is this, what is that. Once we reach certain point, I will explain what we do, what we should not share with the clients to continue as a consultants. Otherwise, they will become consultant. We cannot have any job. So we'll discuss all these points more detailed level going forward. For now, you please remember this story, and you should be able to tell this story to anyone, because this is going to be hard for entire fusion application. So with the help of this chart of accounts only, you can use your financials, you can use your HCM, you can use your SCM, supply chain management, you can use your procurement, you can use your PPM, you can use so and so. If this is not there in our fusion application, no use of fusion application, no heart, nothing. So this is what you have to take it as a takeaway. So please make a note, read, remember, and be able to recall when we move to further discussions. Okay, when we move on to further discussions, you should be able to recall all these points. This will help you. Okay, for today I'm stopping here. Okay, I'll make sure that we'll have very, very regular sessions without any break. Okay, so for sure, with some reason, I'm not going to stop the classes. We'll keep continuing. We'll have regular classes. So we'll catch up tomorrow, same time, 8 AM IST. As already we discussed, our classes always Monday to Friday. Okay, by following IST time zone. So if you have any questions, please stay back. we will discuss. If no questions, you may drop from the meeting. If you want to be in, if you want to listen to the questions and answers, what we are going to discuss, even if you don't have any questions, please stay back. There may be questions from other participants. Even if you don't have any questions, I recommend you to be in the meeting so that at least you can listen to those questions. There could be great learning for you. Yeah, thank you all. See you tomorrow. If you have any questions, please stay back. Thank you.